सर्वविघ्नोपशान्ते यस्वद्रुतवग्राद्या पारिषद्या परसदं विघ्नं निघ्नन्ति सततं विश्वक्षेणं तमाश्रये ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुविष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुं परम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. So we started the Prashna Upanishad a few weeks ago. So I had some time this week, so I thought we'll finish it off. There are 6 chapters in the Prashna Upanishad and we have covered 3 chapters so far. We have seen that basically it is like 6 rishis go and discuss with Pippalada Maharishi. They go as a group and they stay with this ashram for 1 year. They do service to him, and after 1 year the rishi is satisfied and he tells them to ask questions, and each of them asks the questions. The first 3 chapters, the first chapter pretty much dealt with what is creation, how is creation happening. The second question was asking about again prana, how do the people get life, and and the third chapter was how does this life force divide itself both internally and externally. So, the creation, Patateda, he said there is matter and spirit, Surya and Chandra. He was giving all the examples and the different ways of the creation happening. And he was comparing with the day and night, the Sukla Paksha, Krishna Pakshana, the Dakshinayana and Uttarayana, and all the phases of the time periods and the creations related to the time periods. The second part was, on prana, how does what is this prana, what is the life force, where do we get the energy and other things. And the third part was more description of the prana, both internally and externally, like internally divides into prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, all the 5 different types of, the vital forces inside the body, and the same prana is Surya is the prana outside, earth, the bhumi is the apana, the air filling the gap between earth and the sun is called the samana, and the air circulating which is moving around is called the vyana. And then the heat, because when we are in the outside we feel also the heat, which is basically the fire from the sun, but we perceive it as heat, is we call as udana. So these are the 5 cosmic forms of the udana. And we were telling about how the life, people get the next birth and what they think in this janma causes them to get birth in the next janma, and how the thought process is the thought in the Antima Spriti we call is important, and how the udana takes the soul. It's like the udana is like the moving force. It takes the soul from one birth to the next birth. It is like the accelerator, So we said that how the indriyas merge with the mind merges with the prana merges with the atman, and the udana acts as the force which drives the soul out of the body so that it can go to the next body to take a rebirth. So those were kind of the different topics we discussed on the first 3 chapters of the Prashna Upanishad, just to recapitulate. So the next 3 chapters are the most important chapters, because Adi Shankara divides the Prashna Upanishad into 2 parts. The first 3 chapters he calls more like Apara Vidya, or the lower form of knowledge. And then he classifies the next 3 chapters as Paravidya, which is the higher form of knowledge. So the last 3 deals more with materialism and energy, and the last 3 will deal with more the spiritual parts, and which helps you in attaining liberation from the life. Bye. So maybe the link okay. So basically now I'm going to start with the the 4th chapter. So if we have the books or something, and the Prashna Upanishad, you can follow the slokas. We will just cover the slokas and then keep moving with that. So the 4th, 5th and 6th chapters, the 4th chapter deals with basically the 3 states of life, which is wakefulness, dream and deep sleep. They are the 3 phases of the life. All of us go through this. We call Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti in Sanskrit. Jagrat is when you are awake, Swapna is when you are dreaming, and Sushupti when you are in deep sleep. These are the three states we call three avasthas. Every human being goes through these three stages throughout his life, and it is very important in the Vedanta. You have to understand these three stages, because whether you do Viveka Chudamani or whether you read Panchadasi or Upanishads anywhere, they always give you this description of these three stages, the Jagrat, Supna and Sushupti, and they believe that only if you understand exactly what happens in wakefulness, what happens in dream, and what happens in deep sleep, you will get a kind of an idea of the consciousness idea factor, and that helps you better understand the Advaita Tattvam. So that is why any Upanishad, also Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, has chapters describing deep sleep. Kaushitaki Upanishad has chapters. Mandukya Upanishad is just based on only these three states. It compares Om with the three states of life, the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and same way the Prashna Upanishad, which we are going to talk as chapter. So most of the Upanishads and all the Prakarana Granthas, you will invariably come across this description of dream, deep sleep and wakefulness. So this chapter deals with that. The fourth chapter of the Prashna Upanishad deals with the meditation on Om. Om is very important. It is supposed to be the Brahman itself, the letter Om, and how the Om meditation can lead to both Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman is described in the fifth chapter. And the sixth chapter describes how the Adhyaropa Apavada theory of Advaita, which is how the entire creation is superimposed on the Lord Brahman, and how the absorption of the creation back into Brahman is called the Apavada, which is so the projection and the retraction. Basically that's why in Advaita they don't believe there is a real creation. It's only a projection from the Brahman, and then it is reabsorbed back to Brahman. So if you understand the whole world is like a projection on Brahman, and it's like basically like I talked about before, like a movie theater. There is a white screen, the entire movie gets projected on the white screen, and then when the movie is over, all you see is the white screen. So same thing, only the white screen is the reality. Everything is just projected on it and then reabsorbed back to it. So this is what the Advaita theory says. The entire creation is projected, and then once you negate the creation, all you have is the Brahman. So the sixth chapter talks about that. So that's kind of that's why the 4, 5, 6 are called the Paravidya Vyadi Shankara. So now we will start with the fourth chapter, the first shloka. Atahainam saurihaini gargyah papracham Bhagavan etasmin purushe kani swapanti kani asmin jagrati kadara esha devaga swapnan pashyati kasye tat sukam bhavati kasminnu sarve sampratishtita bhavanti iti. So that is how the sloka starts. Sauryayini Gargya, which means the Rishi Gargya who comes in the Surya Vamsa. Sauryayini means in the race of Surya. So the Rishi Gargya comes and he is asking the Pippalada Maharishi the following questions. Bhagavan etasmin purushe kani swapanti kani asmin jagrati kadara esha devaga swapnan pashyati kasyaitat sukham bhavati kasminnu sarve sampratishtita bhavanti iti. He says, O Rishi, who is the one who is seeing these dreams? What is the one which is active during the wakeful sleep state, and what are and all are non-active during sleep? Who is the one who is enjoying the pleasures, and where are they all situated? So basically the questions about it asking who dreams, because in deep sleep we have when everybody sleeps deeply, we say, oh, I did not see anything at all, I did not hear anything at all, I was so pleasant. When you wake up you feel very refreshed and pleasant. You said, I slept well, I didn't feel anything at all, it was very good. So basically when the deep sleep has two features. One feature is you don't see anything or you don't hear anything, it is completely a state of blankness. So that is what is the deep sleep. The second part is it is very pleasant also. Though you did not see anything or anything, you felt very good about it, because when you wake up you feel refreshed and you feel at a good sleep. So the deep sleep has two components. One, you are not perceiving time or space, so desha and kala go away, but you are also feeling very peaceful. So that is why he is asking who is the one enjoying this pleasure of deep sleep. So it is asking who is watching the dream, who is active in the wakeful state, who is enjoying this dream, this deep sleep, all these, and where are they all situated. So these are all questions, how the chapter starts by Gargya to Pippalada Maharishi. And now Pippalada Maharishi is going to answer the questions. He says, Tasmai sahovacha yata Gargya marichyo argasya astam gachataham sarva etasmin tejo mandala eki bhavanti ताह पुनः उदयः प्रशरन्त एवं हवै तत्सर्वं परे देवे मनसि एकी भवति तेन तर्ह्येषु पुरुषो न शृणोति न पश्यति न जिग्रति न रसयते न स्पृशते न अभिवदते न आदत्ते न आनन्दयते न विसृजते न ईयायते स्वपीति इत्याचक्षते. So he says, Tasmai sahovacha Yata Gargya Marichyo Argasya Astam Gachatah Sarva Etasmin Tejo Mandala Eki Bhavanti. He gives the example of Surya. You know, Pippalada Maharishi has some fascination for Lord Surya, because even in the first chapter he prays to Lord Surya. He explains the greatness of Lord Surya. He is again giving Surya as the example. But we know the sun god, the Surya is, in reality the sun is always there. It is only the earth is revolving, and because of that sometimes we see the sun, we don't see the sun. So the sun really never sets, you know, in real life, but because of the rotation of the earth, we feel that it is setting and it is rising. But it gives the example how when the sun is setting or when the sun is rising, what happens? The sun is there and the sun's rays spread all over. The Surya Rashmi, we call Surya Rashmi, the sun's rays spread all over, and that's how the whole world gets both the light and the heat. The sun's rays carry both the light and the heat. So you feel both the light and the heat when the sun rises. And when the sun sets in, these rays are withdrawn back to the sun. So you lose the light and the heat. So that's what he's giving the example, like how when the sun rises, the rays spread, and when the sun sets, the rays go back to the sun. This is only, again, like I said, the sun never sets, but at least to give an example, he gives this. Same way he says, Punaha Puna Udayataga Prasharant Evam Havaitat Sarvam Pare Deve Manasi Eki Bhavati. In the same way, all your senses, the Karmendriyas and the Jnanendriyas, all the 5 organs of action, the 5 organs of knowledge, which is your eyes, the ears, the breathing, the tasting, the skin, and then your speech, your doing the excretion, the bowel movements, everything, walking, using your hands, all those are the Karmendriyas. All of them merge into the mind. Manasi Eki Bhavati. He calls the mind itself as a god. Deve Manasi, the mind god, the mind which is the god. All the senses merge with him, like how the Surya Rashmi goes back to Surya. Same way all the Indriyas get submerged into the Manas, and that time when all of these Indriyas get submerged in the mind, then the Purusha na shrunoti, na pashyati, na jigrati, na rasayate, na sprushate means, shrunoti means he cannot hear, he cannot see, he cannot taste, he cannot smell, he cannot feel. That's why even if you touch a deep sleep person, you cannot feel. You have to really shake him violently to wake him up. And then na abhivadate, no, he has no, he is not enjoying, he is not moving around, he is not excreting. All those things happen. So basically he is giving the example, in the deep sleep all these senses merge into the mind, and that's why you don't do any of these things. So basically the sleep is a state where all the indriyas are completely submerged in the mind. Then he gives another statement. Prana, that is the next sloka. Prana agneha evai tasmin pure jagrati garhyapatyo hava yesho apano vyano anvaharya pashano yad garhyapatyat praniyate pranayanat ahavaniyah pranaham. Little complicated sloka. Prana agneha evai tasmin pure jagrati garhyapatyo hava yesho apano vyano anvaharya pashano yad garhyapatyat praniyate pranayanat ahavaniyah pranaham. So what he says is, even when you are in deep sleep, so actually even the mind, he will tell later, Even the mind is not active in deep sleep. He says actually all the indriyas go to the mind, but then he will tell in the later part, even the mind goes into the aham tattva, we call the I. There is ahamkara tattva, means there is something which always makes you tell I see, I breathe, I walk. So you always tell there is some I inside you, there is this I factor, and there is a true I and there's a false I. Most of the time you are telling about only the false I or the pseudo I. He says there is the I factor which makes you I do, because even when you slept, you say I slept. You say so your sleeping is different from that I. The I is also witnessing your sleep. That's why you are able to tell I slept, I was peaceful during my sleep. So that I factor is the only thing which is active during sleep. Even the mind goes and merges in the I factor. So there is only the I factor is active in sleep, and that's why they say even if 10 people are sleeping, if you call, let's say Professor Sridhar is sleeping and or Prabha is sleeping, you shout loudly Sridhar or Prabha, even in sleep your name rings a bell on you and you wake up, you alone will wake up. So because they say this I factor alone is still active even when you are deep sleep, the Ahankara Tattva is still there. But it is kind of in a quiescent state because the mind and the indriyas all merge into it. But he says, besides the I factor, there is one other thing which is active in the deep sleep. That is prana. So even when you are deep sleep, you don't know anything, you are sleeping like a log of wood, all these pranas are still active, you are still breathing in and out, there is oxygen still moving in your blood, there is still gases being formed in your body. So basically this prana is still very active in your body. So that is the main difference. When the prana leaves, that's when you say you are dead. So even for this is very, very interesting concept. Even in the person with Jivan Mukti, they say when they reach the state of Jivan Mukti, the mind actually merges into the Brahman. So you actually have submerged your mind when you are living itself, but your prana is still active. That's why the Jivan Mukta is still alive. When the pranas of the Jivan Mukta leave and they also merge in Brahman, that only attains Videha Mukti, which means the bodiless state. So even for the Jivan Mukta state, only the pranas are active. Same way, even only the deep sleep also only the pranas are active. So he says the prana agni is still awake in your body. Prana agneha evai tasmin pure jagrati means the prana jagrat means awake. The prana is still awake even if the person is in deep sleep. And he gives the examples of various pranas which are active even in deep sleep. When you do the Vedas, you are supposed to do Agnihotra every day. Agnihotra is prescribed as a Nitya Karma. The Agnihotra has three parts. We call them as Garyapati Agni, Ahavaniya Agni, and Dakshina Agni. These are the three Agnis of Agnihotra. So if you go to anybody's home who is a regular Agnihotra and they are doing regular Agnihotra, you will have these three Agni Kundas. The Garyapati Agni is in circular shape and it is in the back, and then you have the semicircular Dakshina Agni, which is also called Anvaharya Pachana. The Dakshina Agni's other name is called Anvaharya Pachana. And the third Agni, which is in square shape, is called Ahavaniya Agni. So Ahavaniya, Dakshina Agni and Garyapati are the three Agnis. They are called Treta Agnis. So the three Agnis are called the Treta Agnis. These are all where you have to form the Srauta Karmas. All the Vaidika Karmas are performed in this. The Agnihotram is a Nitya Karma. So he is comparing all these pranas in your bodies to the various Agnis which you have in real life. The Garyapati Agni is your Apana. The Vyana is the Anvaharya Pashana, which is the Dakshina Agni. And your prana is the Ahavaniya Agni. And he gives the details. You have to read the commentary, to know why he calls each one of these. But you have to first know about what you do in Garyapati Agni, Ahavaniya Agni and Dakshina Agni, and then only we'll have to come and explain why these pranas are compared there. So, we have to have one chapter for Agnihotra before we come to do this. So I will just leave it like that. Garyapati Agni compares, Pipalada Maharishi compares Garyapati Agni with Apana, Anvaharya Pachana or Dakshina Agni with the Vyana, and the Ahavaniya Agni with the Prana. So these three Agnis, he says, are still active in your body even when you are in deep sleep. That's what he says. So next sloka he says, Yed Uchvasa Nishvasho Etava Ahutihi Samam Nayatiti Sasamanaham मनोहभाव यजमान इष्टः फलमेव उदानहं स एनं यजमानम् अहर ब्रह्म गमयति. So that is the fourth sloka in the fourth chapter. Yad uchvasa nishvasho etava havuti samam nayati iti sa samanaha manohavava yajamana ishtaha falameva udanaha sa enam yajamanam ahar brahma gamayati. So now he is still continuing with the example of Agnihotra itself. You know, when you perform Agnihotra, there is a priest. The priest does Agni, he puts the ahuti into the Agni, he takes the ghee or something in the, you know, there is a special spoon for doing the homa, he takes the spoon and he pours it into the Agni. And when you do Agnihotra, everything is given as double offerings. Indraya Swaha, Agneya Swaha. You tell two times and do the twice Agni, two ahutis every time you do that. So he says, the samana is like the priest, it seems. Yet ushvasa nishvasho means you are breathing in and breathing out. So even in deep sleep, you are breathing in and breathing out without fail. So it is like the samana is the one which is controlling this during sleep, making you breathe in and out regularly. It is like as if the priest is offering double offerings in the etava ahuti. So it is like giving ahuti in Agnihotra. The two breaths are always in pair, the ingoing breath and outgoing breath. It is like the double offerings which you give in Agnihotra, and samana is the like which is controlling this. So he compares samana to the priest giving the Agnihotra ahutis. Manohai vava yajamanaha. So if whenever you do a yajna, there is somebody in yajamana for whom you are doing it, so that he gets the benefit. The mind itself is the yajamana here, and phalameva udanaha, the fruit. So you do the ahutis for the yajamana, you are doing it for particular fruit. I want this benefit or that benefit. You have some benefits you want. So basically the udana is the benefit you get. Why is he comparing udana with the benefit? Means enam yajamanam ahar brahma gameti. Ahar means day by day. Ahar means day by day. It is the udana which is taking the yajamanam to the brahmam. Because even after death, you remember udana is the one which accelerates the movement of the soul. It takes you to the next birth. So the udana is the final thing which helps to propel you, take you towards Brahman. So he takes for the whole Agnihotra, the udana itself is the phalam or the fruit of it. So he compares all the 5 pranas to the performance of Agnihotra in daily life, and he's giving the different examples. And so so with this is giving, so basically he is telling in deep sleep, all your indriyas merge into the mind merges into the I factor, and the I factor is the only one still alive or active, and then the pranas are active. So in deep sleep, except for the I factor and the pranas, nothing else is active. And he is comparing, because only of the I factor you can tell next day, I slept, I was peaceful. So you are still telling, so there is something which is I there, which makes you make the determination that you slept well and all. And it was what I was comparing in the last lecture. I was telling you the Nadaka Deepa chapter from Panchadashi out. Vidyaranya Swamigal was comparing the whole world to the like a stage, drama stage, and you know how he was comparing the dream, deep sleep, and wakefulness in the different stages of the drama, like only when the actor is there and the rehearsal is happening, when the whole crowd is there, when nobody is there but only the empty drama stage is there. So those are the different stages he was comparing with the dream, deep sleep and all. So Peplada Maharishi has given you this so far. Now he is going to the next step. Adraisha Devaha Swapne Mahimanam Anubhavati Yad Drushtam Anupashyati Shrutam Evartam Anushunoti Desha Dik Antaraisha Pratyanubhutam Punah Prat Anubhavati Drushtam Cha Adrushtam Cha Shrudam Cha Ashrudam Cha Anubhutam Cha Ananubhutam Cha Sat Sa Asat Cha Sarvam Pashyati Sadvaha Pashyati. So now he is coming to describe dreams. So if he finished deep sleep, now he is going to dreams. Adraisha Devaham Swapne Mahimanam Anubhavati Yat drishtam anupashyati, shrutam evartam anushrunoti, desha dik antaraisha prat anubudam punah prat anubhavati, drishtam cha adrishtam cha, shrutam cha ashrutam cha, anubudam cha ananubudam cha, sat sa asat cha, sarvam pashyati sadbhaha pashyati. So he says how the dreams are created. Basically, most of the dreams, Adi Shankara, everybody tells, or even the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they are continuation of your wakefulness. So whatever you have, that's what he says, whatever you have seen in wakefulness, whatever you have heard in wakefulness, whatever you have experienced, pratyanubudam, whatever you have experienced in your wakefulness, punaha, those are the ones which indirectly comes back to your dreams. So most of the dreams in general are related to something which happened in the wakeful state. You were happy or you were unhappy, sorrow or fearful, whatever you have experienced somewhat, they kind of get reflected in your dreams. But they also add drishtam cha adrushtam cha, shrutam cha ashrutam cha, anubudam cha ananubudam cha, sat sa asat cha. But you also, besides seeing what you have already seen, you also sometimes see which you have not seen, adrushtam. Ashrutam, you sometimes hear which you have not heard. You experience something which you have not experienced. And sat, sa, asat, some of the dreams seem to be real. Some of the dreams seem to be very unreal. For example, you can see an elephant singing in your dream. You can never see an elephant singing in your real life unless it is a miracle by God or something. But you sometimes in your dreams you see unreal things too. That's what it's telling. Most of the times it is an extension of what you see in the wakeful state. It is a remnant of the experience, the subconscious which comes back. But you also see some things which you have not experienced, which you have not heard, which you have not seen, and which are not truthful also, you see in the dreams. And basically they say, except for the truth, untruth, the main thing they say is, Adi Shankara gives very good explanation. This is because you have Purva Janma Vasanas. So some things which you see, you may not have experienced in this Janma, but you probably experienced in a previous Janma, and that is why it is in your subconscious Vasana impressions, and that is spurting out during deep sleep. So that's why some of these things which you have never seen at all in this life, or which you have never heard at all in this life, or which you have never experienced at all in this life, they are all from your subconscious Vasanas. So that is why you don't see them in the real life, but you see them in your dreams. And the asat cha is because of the combination. You might have seen a snake, you might have seen somebody singing, but in the dream the snake and the singing can join together and the snake looks like it's singing. So it is again, the dream is again an example of the Maya creation, because everybody uses the dream itself, how the dream is a lot of things which you see in the dream are unexplainable. Same way, even in the wakeful state is unexplainable. That is why we call anirvachaniya. Even the entire creation according to Adi Shankara we call anirvachaniya, means it is beyond description. So Adi Shankara says even Brahman is anirvachaniya, creation is anirvachaniya. You cannot describe Brahman or you cannot describe the creation. Both of them are anirvachaniya. Yato vacho nivartante aprahapya manasasaham. That's what the Anandavalli also says. So basically both the creation and the Brahman are unexplainable. They are a very mystery. Both of them are a mystery. So the dream is, this is what it says. But just as an extension of dream, I will tell you there are two other things which can happen in dream. So most of the time the dreams are an extension of what you saw in wakefulness, and the remnants of that is what you get revealed. You got angry with somebody in your real life, that might show in the dream also. That anger might be, you might be shouting at somebody in your dream also. So most of them is extension of your real life, what you see in wakefulness. Some of them could be your previous Janma Vasanas, that's why which you have not seen also you sometimes experience. But there's a third and the fourth category. The third and fourth category is not described here, but is described in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The one category is basically you can sometimes see the future. For some people, dreams can portend the future. So that is proven. And fourth, some people do get real vision of God or saints, and they give instruction to them we see in lot of Nayanmar story how Lord Shiva appears in the dream of the king, tells him to do that or that. So there is also the Lord can sometimes come in the dream, but Majority of the time, if you see like Mahapariva coming in your dream or Shiva coming in your dream, it's probably just a reflection of wakefulness. You would have probably gone to Mahapariva temple that day, and that's why he comes in the dream. Those are not should be really taken as, oh, Mahapariva came to bless me in the dream, or Ramana Maharishi came in my dream. Most of that you probably went there 1 year ago or something, and again subconscious impression is what comes out. But once in a while, the God or the Acharya do come in the dream and give Upadesa or things are there. So that is why Ramanuja holds very strongly, because Brother Upanishad states this, even dream is real, because some of the dreams can be portending your future, or sometimes even the God comes and gives you. That's why Ramanuja says even dream is not unreal, everything is real. That's why Ramanuja theory is everything, even dream is real. Whereas for Adi Shankara, even dream is mithya, and even real life is also mithya, and Brahman is real. For Buddha, everything is mithya. Dream is mithya, real life is mithya, there is no Brahman, even Brahman is mithya, everything is mithya for Buddha. So that is how Ramanuja, Shankara and Buddha. For Buddha, everything is mithya. For Adi Shankara, Brahman is true, but everything else is mithya. For Ramanuja, everything is true. Brahman is true, wakefulness is true, even dream is true. Because Ramanuja will quote the Bharatani Upanishad, even the Shruti says that some of your dreams are true, that the Lord comes in your dream, you portend your future in the dreams. So the dream is still a big mystery. That's why Adi Shankara says Anirvachaniya, because Shrutam cha Ashrutam cha. So the dream is a big mystery still. But that is kind of the explanation what you get in the Prashna Upanishad about dream. So now we go to the next sloka. Sayada tejas abhibhuto bhavati atraisha devah swapnan na pashyata ata tataitasmin sharire etat sukham bhavati. Sayata tejasa abhibhuto bhavati atraisha devah swapnan na pashyata ata tataitasmin sharire etat sukham bhavati. So what it says is, in the dream itself, there is a light. He gives, basically, because you go from wakefulness, you go to dream, and after dream only you go to deep sleep. Even there is, we call REM sleep, non-REM sleep. If you go to medicine, there are various stages where you see dreams. We call it as REM sleep, rapid, and then there is an deep sleep. So even in our science, the sleep is put in different categories. Same way you go to dream and then you go to deep sleep. So what you are telling is, what Pippalada Maharishi is telling is, you are experiencing the dreams, you are seeing all these creations in the dreams. So he says, in the dreams, it is basically the mind is still active. All the indriyas are not active, but the mind is active. The indriyas are projected into the mind, so the mind itself is the creator. But Adi Shankara clearly puts in the Prashna Upanishad, mind cannot be the creator. The Atma in the Taijasa, because we call the same, I gave the same example, how you have the same person in the morning, he is doing puja in his home, so he behaves like a priest. The same person goes to the office, works like a doctor or an engineer, then you call him engineer. Then he comes to the home, he spends his time with the family, takes them for a movie, he's like the father or the husband. So the same man behaves like a pujari in morning, behaves like a doctor in the afternoon, and behaves like a father in the night. So same way the same Atma behaves as we call it Vishwa, Taijasa and Prajna. He is called, when the Atma is in the wakeful state, supervising the wakeful state, we call it as Vishwa. When the Atma is supervising the dream state, we call it as Taijasa. And when the Atma is supervising the dream sleep, we call it as Prajna. So the Adi Shankara says it is the Atma along with the mind which is projecting the dreams, based upon your all the vasanas and other things you have experienced. And now he is going, how you go from dream to deep sleep. The light, he says, the example he gives is, this is the example Pippalada Maharishi is giving. For example, if you have let's say your house is dark, you light a lamp. So you put a small candle, you open the lamp. So the lamp is now lighting up the whole room. Now suddenly, let's you open the curtains, everything, there is a bright sunlight coming into the room, or like say they have a 1000-watt light outside the room is flashing. Now the light will even submerge the candle light. The small candle light will be submerged in a very bright light. So same way he says, when you are going to deep sleep, that something overcomes this, and that is why you pass from this dream to deep sleep. It is like as if the light entering the room submerges already the candle there, and makes it as one uniform light now. Same way there is some Tejas Shakti which moves in and converts you from dream to deep sleep. And when you go to that state, etat shukam bhavati, you become peaceful. So because even the dreams you are agitated, sometimes the dreams make you excited, sometimes the dreams make you very fearful. You can be happy, excited, angry even after the dream. But when you go to deep sleep, you have no emotions at all. So you go into peacefulness. So this is where again he is saying that is because what he is calling as the light factor is the I, the ahamkara tattva submerges the manas tattva. So even the indriyas are already into the manas, and the manas merges into the aham tattva. So that is the light which submerges. So he compares the aham tattva as the bright light and the manas as the candle light. So when the aham tattva takes over, it submerges even the mind. So in deep sleep only the aham tattva is active, and he already told how only the prana tattvas are active in deep sleep. So basically that is the kind of the summary from going from deep sleep to a thing. And he doesn't explain the wakefulness very much here, because in wakefulness is understood when you are awake, everything is active. All your karmendriyas active, your jnanendriyas are active, your mind is active, your ahankara tattva is active. So everything is active in the wakefulness. So wakefulness, everything is active. In the dream, only the mind is active and the ahankara tattva is still there. Whereas in deep sleep, only the ahankara tattva and the pranas are there, even the mind is submerged. So that is kind of the different gradations he is telling, and he is telling here. Sayata somya vayamsi vaso vriksham sampratishthante evam havai tat sarvam para atmani sampratishthate. So he is now telling, because he asked where are all these settled, he says even the I factor, every factor finally settles only in the Atma. Yata somya vayamsi vaso vriksham sampratishthate evam havaitat sarvam para atmani sampratishthate. He is giving the example. Vaso vriksham means how the different birds are flying all over, but at the end of the evening they come back to the net, to the net in the tree, and they just submerge into the nest. We call the bird's nest. So same way, everything in the mind, everything is active fully, and finally everything comes back to the resting place, which is the Atman. So here the main difference is made. The Atman is still there, the I factor is there. So while you are telling everything goes back to the Atman. So this is a big question in the night. Do you go back to your Atma in the night? And they say kind of you are very close to the Atma in the night. That's why you get this kind of this inexplicable peace. And when Adi Shankara examples, he gives a very nice example, because if you read different Upanishads, different things will come. If you read the Katha Upanishad or the other Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, will say at deep sleep you go to the Puritat Nadi. So they give you a Nadi, so your Atma rests in the Nadi. But when you are reading the Prashna Upanishad, it says it goes and rests in the Atman. Everything goes and rests in the Atman, like how the bird goes back to the nest, all the factors go back to the Atman. So you are telling in one place it is resting in the Nadi, and then there is another Upanishad that tells everything rests in the heart during the night. So what in one Upanishad it says heart, one Upanishad says Nadi, one Upanishad says with Atman. What is correct? And Adi Shankara gives a good example to explain this. He says everything is correct. He says, let's say if somebody is sleeping, he gives the example of a king sleeping. If you want to say the king is sleeping, how do you say? First of all, the king is in the palace. Then in the palace there is the bedroom. In the bedroom there is the cot. So the king is in the palace, inside his bedroom, on top of the cot he is sleeping. So that is why, and then he is telling, imagine this bedroom is close to the Swami room, the puja room. But there is only a small curtain which is separating you from the bedroom and the Swami room. So basically you are close to God also. So it is basically like that. You are sleeping. So when each Upanishad gives, he is sleeping here, he is sleeping there, he is sleeping there. One of them is giving the palace description, one of them is giving the bedroom description, one of them is giving the cot description, and one of them is giving you, you are close to the Swami room, but you are still not inside the Swami room, because that is what the veil, the I factor, ahamkar, only if the ahamkarta dissolves only, you will be completely merged with the Brahman. So the ahamkarta is still there. So basically, every statement in the Upanishads is correct, but you have to imagine, one is describing the palace, one is describing the bedroom, one is describing the cot, one is describing close to the Swami room. That's what it is describing. So that way, if you understand, you will find no discrepancy in what the Upanishads are stating. So, but here it says, Sayata somya vayamsi vaso vriksham sampratishtante evam havaitat sarvam para atmani sampratishtate. Like how the birds completely rest in the nest, everything finally submerges and rests in the Atman. So that is the thing there. So then the seventh, the next one is the big sloka. And then he's still now explaining deep sleep. Prithivi cha prithivi matra cha apascha apo matrascha tejascha tejo matrascha vayuscha vayu matrascha akashascha akasha matrascha chakshuscha drashtavyam cha shrotram cha shrotavyam cha घ्राणं च ग्रादव्यं च रसश्च रसयिदव्यं च त्वक्ष स्पर्शयिदव्यं च वाक्श्च वक्तव्यं च हस्तौ च आददव्यं च उपस्थश्च आनन्दिदव्यं च पायुश्च विसर्जयिदव्यं च पादौ च गन्तव्यं च मनश्च मन्तव्यं च बुद्धिश्च बोधव्यं च अहङ्कारश्च अहं कर्तव्यं च चित्तं च छेदयिदव्यं च तेजश्च विद्योदयिदव्यंश्च प्राणश्च विधारयिदव्यंश्च. He gives a big list. He starts from Prithvi Tattvam, Prithvi, Apa, Teja, Vayu, Akasha, Chakshu, Shrotram, Granam, Rasam, Tvak, Vak, Hastau, Upasta, Payu, Padau, Manash, Buddhi, Ahankara, Prana. So he gives all these different tattvas. Buddhischa buddhi matracha, Prithivicha Prithivi matracha means Prithivi is the earth, the Panchabhutam earth, and the Prithivi matracha is smell. The matra associated with Prithivi is smell. So he says Prithivi along with his matra, water along with his matra, matra is all these Panchabhutams along with the matras, and then he goes to the Antakaranam. We talked about Antakaranam is Buddhi, Mano, Ahankaram, Chiddam. It is only one Antakaranam, but it does four functions. When it judges and analyzes, we call it as buddhi or intellect. When it is vacillating with emotions, we call it as mind. When it is a storehouse of knowledge, we call it as chittam. And when it makes you the I factor, the one which makes you say aham, ham, it calls the ahankara tattvas. The ahankaram, chittam, mano, buddhi are the four types of antakaranam. He says all the antakaranam, even the buddhi is grasping or the mind is vacillating, or when the ahankara tattva is giving you the ahankara feeling, all these merge into the Atman. So basically he told like how the birds go back to the nest and rest in the Atman. All these tattvas and all these functions finally goes and rests back into the Atma. So again here Adi Shankara is telling, in deep sleep you really completely don't go back to the Atma, because if you go back to Atma you are already mukta. There is still a veil of ignorance, which is like there is like a small curtain separating you, the bedroom and the Swami room. So you have to take it only in that example in deep sleep. Only in the Turiya state, even when the curtain is gone and you completely go into the Swami room, only you are completely one with Brahman. Here is still there's a small veil separating you. So though he says Pippalada Maharishi is given this, you have to understand it, putting all in place. But basically he is telling all these different components, everything gets absorbed into the Atman during the night, during deep sleep. So he is giving this long-winded explanation. Ehi drashta, sprashta, shrota, grada, rasayita, manta, bota, karta, vijnana atma purushaham, sapare akshare atmani sampratishtate. This is a very small sloga but a big deep meaning. Ehi drashta, sprashta, shrota, grata, rasayita, manta, bota, karta, vijnana atma purushaha. So this is where Adi Shankara is beginning to differentiate between the Vijnana Atma Purushaha and Pare Akshare Atmani, the Paramatma, The Pare means the supreme indestructible. Aksharam means indestructible Atma. All this finally rest in the Para Atma. Sa Pare Akshare Atmani Sampratishtate means they get established or settled in the Para Atma. So including the Vijnana Atma Purusha means, because in Advaita we don't believe there is a real true Atma, Jivatma. There is only illusory Atma only is there. So it is because the reflection of the Atma, we have to go to the Pratibimba theory to understand that the reflection of the Paramatma in the Ahankara Tattva causes this illusory Jiva. So that is what Adi Shankara called Vijnana Atma Purusha. So Vijnana Atma Purusha means it is the Vijnanam, the intellect with the reflection of the Atma. That is the final thing which is there. That is the one which is the Drashta, Sprashta, Shrota, Grata. That is the one which is actually seeing. So it is the Vijnana Atma Purusha is the one which is actually seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling, tasting, thinking. Karta means acting. Everything is this Vijnana Atma Purusha. But this also, Sapare Akshari Atmani Sampradishtate. Even this finally will rest only in the Para Atma. So that is the thing there. So he is giving the example of how to understand the deep sleep and thing, and then in the final state, so you have to understand this Vijnana Atma as the entity which is doing all the activities in your daily life, including watching your dreams or deep sleep or activity, and this Jivatma also finally will have to go and rest in the Paramatma. Parameva Aksharam Pradibhadyate Sayoha Vai Tat Aschayam Ashariram Alohitam Subram Aksharam Vedayate Yastu Somya Sasarbhagyah Sarvo Bhavati Tatesha Slokaham. So you see how Pippalada Maharishi takes step by step. Now he is coming to describe the Paramaksharam, which means the final Atma state. So he starts from dream, deep sleep, and he takes you step by step to each level. Parameva Aksharam Pradibhadyate Sayoha Vai Tat Aschayam Ashariram Alohitam Subram Aksharam Vedayate Yastu Somya Sasarbhagyah Sarvo Bhavati Tatesha Slokaham. This supreme Paramaksharam, this final state, is one Tat Aschayam, which means Chaya means shadow. It doesn't have shadow. Ashariram, it has no body, it has no taste, it is very pure. And one who knows this supreme state which is pure and without any of these attachments, that is the final state. That person becomes a Sarvajñah. He will know everything and he will become everything. He will not only know everything, he will become everything himself. So Brahmavid, Brahma Eva, not Brahmavid, they say, one who knows Brahman is not knower of Brahman, he will become Brahman itself. No, na Brahmavid, Brahma Eva means knower of Brahman is called Brahmavid. Brahma Eva means becomes Brahman itself. So one who knows this supreme state, which is shadowless, which is bodiless, which is tasteless, which is completely pure and indestructible, one who knows that state becomes a Sarvajñah and also becomes everything. Sarvajñah Sarvo Bhavati. He becomes everything and becomes the all-knower. And then the final sloka in this chapter, Vijnana Atma Saha Devaischa Sarvaihi Prana Bhutani Sampratishtanti Yatra Tat Aksharam Vedayate Yastu Somya Sasarbhagyah Sarva Eva Aviveshati. So he's again repeating it. Vijnana Atma Saha Devaischa Sarvaihi Prana Bhutani Sampratishtanti Yatra Tat Aksharam. He says the Vijnana Atma means this, the intellect, the reflection of the Atma which is seen in the intellect, which is we call the Jivatma Tattvam. Saha Devaischa. Here the Devas represent the Indriyas. So because the Indriyas are always compared to the Devas, all your Pancha Karmendriya and Pancha Jnanendriyas are always all the Devas along with the Vijnatma. Sarvai Pranaha, even all the Pranas, Bhutani, all the Pancha Bhutani, Sampratishtanti Yatra, all these have only one resting place. So the Jivatma, the Indriyas, the Pranas and the Bhutas have only one resting place. Tat Yatra Tat Aksharam. That is the final indestructible state. Vedayate, one who knows that final instruct. Vedayate yastu somya. Somya means my we call honey, my honey, my good. When you like a person, you call him with some good terms. Somya is a very common term used in the Upanishads. Oh, my likable person, my dear. So it means like that, my dear. One who knows that aksharam, sa sarvagyaha sarva eva aviveshati. He will know everything and he will also be pervading everything. Sarvameva aviveshati means, so the final Brahman state, he will be, so he will not only know everything, he will pervade everything. So you become Brahman means you pervade the entire creation. So Vijnana Atma Saka Devaicha Sarvaihi Prana Bhutani Sampratishtanti Yatra Tat Aksharam Vedayate Yastu Somyaha. One who knows that Aksharam Sa Sarvagyaha Sarva Eva Aviveshati will become a Sarvagyan and will also pervade all things. So that is where ends the fourth chapter of the Prashna Upanishad, where he starts from dream, deep sleep, takes you step by step, and finally takes you to the Paramatma state. So now that's a very tough chapter, but like say Adi Shankara says, the 4th, 5th and 6th is the real Paravidyas. The first 1, 2, 3 are called Aparavidyas. So now with that I am going to start the 5th chapter, which is the Omkara Dhyanam. So here about Omkara, because now he's got to give you some practical tips. Okay, you told me in the 4th chapter there is this illusory Jivatma, there is this Paramatma, and when you know the Paramatma, you become a Sarvajna, you become everything. Now what is the practical tip? How do I come to know him, or what do I do for that? So that is when he is giving up. Now again it starts as a question. Basically one of the other rishis is going to start a question to Pippalada Maharishi, and they begin this as a Omkara Dhyanam, because basically according to the Upanishads, if you know and understand the meaning of Om, so you don't need no other mantras. If you know Om, you know the meaning of Om, and you meditate on Om itself, you will become Brahman. That is all the bottom line. That is the Mandukya Upanishad, entirely for which our Gaudapada Acharya wrote the Mandukya Karika, is fully based only on Om. What is Om? What are the components of Om? What does Om represent? What does meditating on Om does? It's all Mandukya Upanishad, full and full only Om. Whereas Prashna Upanishad, only one of the chapters is about Om. Same thing in Chandogya Upanishad, but there is only one chapters here and there for Om, what is Om and all. But basically if you know Om and know the correct way of meditating Om, you can attain Brahma. But let me tell you this, I don't know exactly how to meditate on Om, and basically they say only the sannyasis are actually eligible to meditate on Om. Most of the non-sannyasis, we have to meditate only on the Sabuna Brahman, like Vishnu Dhyanam or Shiva Dhyanam. That is what is prescribed for most of us. So to be really a Omkara meditator, it is better to be in the sannyasa ashrama, or at least you should be evolved to that level, even if you are not sannyasa, but you should be being in a renunciated state. Then you can go through a guru and they will teach you what is this Trimatra Dhyanam, Ekamatra Dhyanam and all that stuff. You need to know it correctly. But if you know, if you are very highly renunciated and you are in that high level of evolution, then you become qualified for this Omkara Dhyanam. So really, like I said, in our Adi Shankara Tattva, if you go by Sampradaya, Omkara Dhyanam is recommended only for sannyasis. But because nobody believes that sannyasi is a very big thing which you can do in Kali Yuga, Omkara Dhyanam can also be done by non-sannyasis, but again you should be very mentally and spiritually mature, and you should get a good guru who is able to direct you how to do it. So there's only a theory part which is described in here, so you might not get all the practical answers, but you might have to go to a real guru to get the exact way, but at least we'll see what Pippalada Maharishi says here. Atahainam shaibhya satyakamaha paprascha sayoga vai tad bhagavan manishyeshu prayanantam omkaram abhidhyayitam kadamam bhavasatena lokam jayati iti. So he is asking, tat adahainam shaibhya satyakamaha paprascha sayoga vai tad bhagavan manishyeshu prayanantam omkaram abhidhyayita kadamam Bhava Satena Lokam Jayati iti. So Shaibhya, who is the son of Satyakama, asks Pippalada, he calls Pippalada Bhagavan, hey Bhagavan, Manushya in the world of the people throughout his life. Prayanantam means throughout his life. Omkaram abhidyayita, the one who meditates on Omkara, katamam bhava satena lokam jayati, which worlds will he win? So he's asking if a human being meditates on Om all throughout his life, what will he win? What will he get? That is the question is asked. So that now, our Pippalada Maharishi is starting to answer it. Tasmai sahovacam edat vai satyakama param cha aparam cha brahma yat omkaraham tasmat vidvan etena eva ayatanena ekataram anveti. So this is all, Adi Shankara's deep tattvas. The Prashna Upanishad is such a great one, like a lot of people don't know it. I mean, the 6 chapters, I am not a big scholar or a big acharya, but in my personal opinion, if you read the 6 chapters of Prashna Upanishad and keep on meditating 6 chapters of Prashna Upanishad, that's all you need. It has everything there. Whatever is in the big Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad and all, Prashna Upanishad, that is why you won't believe in Viveka Chudamani. Adi Shankara will say very often, the great Atharva Veda, he will tell every Vedas, but he will refer, when he tells Atharva Veda, he will tell, oh, the great Atharva Veda. That is what he will tell. Though Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the Samaveda among the Vedas, Adi Shankara will always appreciate Atharva Veda. Adi Shankara likes Prashna Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad. He likes Mandukya Upanishad so much because Gaudapada wrote Bhashya, or my Guru wrote it, so he will keep it on his head and always worship Mandukya Upanishad. And Mundaka Upanishad and Prashna Upanishad, according to him, as the most greatest philosophies in a simple form, he says, the great Atharva Veda says so. That's how when you read Viveka Chudamani here and there, he will say, according to the great Atharva Veda, this is what is said. So Prashna Upanishad is part of the Atharva Veda. So, this chapter begins to explain how the illusory Jivatma and Paramatma is explained in the dream, deep sleep state, the 4th chapter. The 5th chapter begins to describe Etat vai satyakama param cha aparam cha brahma yat omkaraha. So it divides Brahman into 2. There is a Parab Brahma and Apara Brahman. So that is what we call Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. So the Vishishtadvaitis, Ramanujacharya, they don't accept 2 Brahmans. They said, you guys talk of one, but you say of everything as 2. But we talk of everything 2, but we say there's only one Brahman. There is only one divine Vishnu is there. Whereas Adi Shankara and Adi Shankara quotes a lot of Upanishads, to say why he is telling that there is 2 different Brahmans, the Nirguna Brahman and Shaguna Brahman. So the same thing Pippalada Maharishi is saying, hey Satyakama, the Brahman is 2, Param and Aparam Brahma. Both of them are represented by Omkara. So the Omkara can represent both Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Etat vai Satyakama Param cha Aparam cha Brahma et Omkaraham. Tasmat vidvan etena eva ayatanena ekataram anveti. So he says the vidwan means the real scholar has to grab hold of one of them. So you can take Omkara and use Omkara for Saguna Brahma Dhyanam, or you can take Omkara and take for Nirguna Brahma Dhyanam. Whatever he takes, he will get it. So basically he says there is 2 Brahmans, and the Omkara can represent both the Brahmans, and the Vidwan can take hold of Om and meditate on Saguna Brahman or on Nirguna Brahman, and whichever he meditates, he will attain that state. That is what he is telling there. And then, again, this Omkara mantra is very, there is Atharvashika Upanishad, this Apaya Dikshita praises the Atharvashika Upanishad again in Atharva Veda, which compares the Omkara with Lord Shiva, and there is a very big there is Atharvashika and Atharvashiras. Both of them, Apaya Dikshita praises both of the Upanishads, the Atharvashika Upanishad and Atharvashiras Upanishad, which also gives you description of the Omkara mantras only. But the Prashna Upanishad, now he is going to give you more explanations. As most of you know, the Omkara has Akara, Akara, Ukara, Makara. That's what most of the Upanishads will say. The Omkara is split into 3 words: Akara, Ukara, and Makara. The Ma becomes Im. Im becomes Aum, becomes Om. So that's what the 3 words are important. Akara, Ukara, and Makara are important. And basically, they use Trimatra. They will say meditate with 1 matra. meditate with 2 matras, meditate with 3 matras. And here again you have to go to a well knowledgeable guru, because according to some, 1 matra means just meditating on akara. Akara dhyanam is 1 matra. Ukara dhyanam is 2 matra, and makara, akara, ukara, makara dhyanam is 3 matra. So, but some people tell, no, you say Om, but the speed which you say Om is only for 1 matra. You say Om for 2 matras, and you can tell the same Om for 3. So you can tell the whole word Om, but different, the timings are different. So there is this difference between just meditating on individual syllables of the Om versus meditating on the whole Om with different time periods. So each of them is, both of them are mentioned. Meditating on individual syllables also mentioned, and as well as meditating on the Om with different time periods is also mentioned. So that is why, like I said, the Omkara Dhyanam is, though it is very easy to understand or do, it is real technical issues. So that is why you have to go to a really Brahmanishta, Shotriya Guru and get the Upadesam from him only, and then do that. So here again we are going to, because if you go to Mandukya Upanishad, it is ugly akara, ukara, makara. When you meditate with akara, what benefits you get. When you meditate with ukara, what benefits you get. When you meditate with makara, it actually splits the syllables itself and describes. Whereas here, Pippalada Maharishi is not splitting the syllables, but he says meditate with 1 matra. So we don't know exactly what it is meant, but Adi Shankara is implying that he probably meditates the whole Om with the 1 matra speed. So, Sat Ed Ekamatram Abid. So now Pippalada is telling what are the benefits of meditating with Ekamatra, Dvimatra and Trimatra. He will tell the next 3 slokas. Sayad Ekamatram Abidyayitam Satenaiva Samvedis Dhurnameva Jagatyam Abhisambatyate Tam Risho Manishya Lokam Upanayante Satatra Tavasa Brahmacharyena Shraddhaya Sampanno Mahimanam Anubhavati. So here you have to understand, he is bringing the Vedas to Ritta Drisho Abhyuktam, then he will become the Yajur Veda, he will bring the Atharva Sama Veda in the next sloka. So here you have to understand the word Akara, Ukara, Makara. This only becomes our Gayatri mantra. Tatsva Vitruvare Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yonaka Prachodayat. So the Akara is the Tatsva Vitruvare Ukara is the Bargo Devasya Dhimahi, and Makara is the Diyo Yona Prachodayat. So it is said the word Om gives rise to the 3 components of the Gayatri. And the Tatsva Vitruvare Inyam itself becomes the Rig Veda. The Bargo Devasya Dhimahi itself becomes the Yajur Veda. And the Diyo Yona Prachodayat itself becomes Sama Veda. That's how it is explained. So the Om gives to the Tripada Gayatri, and each Pada of the Gayatri gives to each Trayi. So always when they say the Trayi Veda only, for some reason they exclude the Atharva Veda. Trayi Marga Prakash, there is one name for Adi Shankara. Trayi Marga Prakashakaya Rava means one who enlightened the 3 Vedas. The 3 Trayi is very commonly used for Veda. Trayi means Veda. 3 Vedas. The Atharva Veda was for some reason not included, but basically he is going to tell. So the Akara, Ukara, Makara itself became the Tripada Gayatri, and each Pada of the Gayatri itself gave rise to the Rig, Yajur and Sama Vedas. That is how the origin of the Vedas is explained. No? And now he is telling, when one person, so he is going to bring Rig Veda for 1 matra dhyanam, he is going to bring Yajur Veda for the Dvimatra dhyanam, and he is going to bring Sama Veda for the Trimatra dhyanam. Sayad Ekamatram Abhidyayita Satenaiva Samvedis Dhurnameva Jagadyam Abhisambatyate Tam Risho Manishya Loke Upanayante Satatra Tabasa Brahmacharyena Shraddhaya Sampanno Mahimanam Anubhavati. So Pippalada Maharishi is saying, one who meditates on Om with 1 matra, he is going to get rid of all his sins. Basically his ignorance will be removed, and Jagatyam Abhisambatyate, he will be able to come back to the earth again. So there is rebirth for him. Tam Risho, it is the Rig Veda Devatas. Here is comparing the Rig Vedas with the there is Devata for each Veda. Rig Veda Devata, Yajurveda Devata, Sama. Tam Risho Manishya Loke Upanayante. So a person who is meditating all his life in Om with the 1 matra, he will get rid of his sins, but he will have to come back to earth. The Rig Veda Devatas bring back him to earth, and when he comes back again, he will be engaged in tapasa and brahmacharya. So he will do more and more practice, and that's how he becomes a great person. So even he's telling the greatness. So even if you meditate on one matra of the with the Om, it is going to give you good benefits. But you will have a rebirth, and the Rig Veda Devatas will bring you back to earth. And when you come back to earth again, you will do more and more tapasa and brahmacharyam, and you will get a mahimanam. You will become a great man. So that is the ekamatra dhyanam. Next comes this. Ada yeti dvimatrena manasi sambatyate. So antariksham yajurbihi unni yate soma lokam sa soma loke vibhudim anubuya punaravartate. So in first, when ekamatra dhyanam of Omkara, you will come back to earth very quickly and start your practice. So when you do dvimatra dhyanam, ada yatri dvimatrena manasi sampatyate. So antariksham yajurbihi unni yate soma lokam. So one who does this, at the end of his life, the Yajurveda Devatas will take him to Somaloka. Somaloka is compared to the Swarga, the heavens. They are all the pleasures in the Indraloka. They are all the what is described with the word Somalokam here. And you can take it as the moon world or all the world of pleasures. So Somaloke Vibhudim Anubuya Punaravartate. So after he completes his enjoyment in the Somaloka, he will be born again. Because the question initially asked is, what will happen if one keeps on meditating on Om throughout the life? So he's giving him examples. If you meditated one matra, what will happen? If you meditate with two matras, what will happen? So he's giving the answer to the question asked. So now he's coming to the third sloka. Ya pudaredam trimatrena omit eteneva aksharena param purusham abidhyayitam satejasi surye sampannaham yata phado darastvacha vinirmuchyata eham havaisa papmana vinirmuktaha sa samabhihi unni yate brahmalokam sa etasmat jivaganat paratparam purushayam purusham ikshate tateshau sloko bhavatyaham. So that's a very important slokam. Ya punaredam trimatrena omit etena eva aksharena param purusham abidhyayitam satejasi surye sampannaham yata padodharastvacha vidirmuchyata evam havaisa papmana vidirmuktaha samabhihi unniyate brahmalokam sa etasmat jivaganat paratparam purushayam purusham ikshate tate taushloko bhavataham. So he says, one who meditates on the Omkara with trimatras, thinking about the Supreme. So he is not only meditating on trimatras, you should also think about the Supreme Aksharena Param Purusham Abhidyayati. You should also simultaneously meditate on the Supreme. For that person, Surya Sampannaha, he will attain the world of Surya. So one was Manishya Loka, second was Soma Loka, third was Surya Loka. But basically it is very clear. Anybody who goes to Surya Loka has to traverse Surya Loka. If there is a Archiradi Marga, which is very well described in Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya Upanishad, so you have to go past the Surya Loka, then only you can go to the Brahma Lokam. So basically the Surya Loka is kind of open, where if you go to Surya Loka and if you traverse Surya Loka, you will be able to reach Brahma Loka. So he says he gets to the world of Surya. Yada Padodharas Tvacha means Padodhara here is the name of a snake. The snake will shed the skin. So how the snake sheds the skin, same way this guy will get rid of all his gross bodies, the stula sukshma sariram, all these vinirmuktaha. So we have to get rid of all these encoverings, the stula sariram, sukshma sariram. Only if you get to those, when you are able to get this, you are able to go to reach the Brahma Lokam. So same way like how the snake sheds its skin. Padodharas tvacha. Tvacha means skin. Padodhara means a big snake. How a big snake is able to shed the skin. Same way this person who has done Trimatra Dhyanam with meditating on Supreme will get rid of all his coverings and all his sins. And the Samabhi Unni, the Sama Devatas will take him to Brahma Lokam directly. So Etasmat Jivaganat Paratparam Purushayam Purusham Ikshate. And he will face to face see this Hiranyagarbha, because here Adi Shankara clearly explained the Jivaganat Paratparam means the one who is the leader of all the jivas. So here again there is the illusion, there is separate Jiva and Paramatma. So here, as long as you hear that, you will only go to Hiranyagarbha Lokam. You will not get to the Nirguna Brahman. So Jiva Ganat Paratparam means the one who is the supreme leader of all the Jiva Ganas. That person, Purusham Ikshate, he will see face to face. Tatetau Shlok. This is what Ramanuja says, you will go and meet Vishnu and Vaikuntham. That's what. So Ramanuja is not wrong. Prashnopanishad says it very clearly there. Only thing whether it is the highest stage is the question. Jiva Ganat Paratparam Purushayam Purusham Ikshate. Face to face, he will see the supreme leader of all the Jiva Ganas when he goes to the Paratparam Lokam. So basically that is what is told in this Loka of the Trimatra Dhyanam. Then it says, Tishro Matra Mrityu Madhyaham Prayukta Anyona Sakta Anavi Prayuktaham Kriyasu Bahya Abhyantara Madhyamasu Samyak Prayuktasu Nakampate Nyaham. So what it says is, because he's going to still explain, there is this final state of Nirguna Brahman too. Here though you says, in general what we believe is, if people go to the Brahma Lokam, what we call the Satya Lokam or where the Hiranyagarbha Lokam, they will still get it, they will still not be reborn, because there is we call it as the Krama Mukti. Basically, if you go to this Brahma Lokam, you will spend the entire, till the Parardham of the Brahma is over, and at the end of that, even the Brahma Lokam will get destroyed and everybody along with Brahma will merge into the Brahman. So even Krama Mukti too, you will merge with the Brahman, but it will take a long time. You will go to this Lokam, still the Jiva and the Paramatma will be separate, but you will continue meditation there, and then for so many eons, and then when the Prakrita Pralayam happens, like the Bhagavatam says, they will merge with the Nirguna Brahman. So that is what it is. So basically, some people will still compare going to Saguna Brahman as there is a chance for you to rebirth. But in general rule, people go to the Saguna Brahma Lokam, they don't have a rebirth. But that is what he is mentioning here. Tistro Matra Mrityu Madhyaham Prayukta Anyo Nasakta Anavi Prayuktaham Kriyasu Bahya Abhyantara Madhyamasu Samyak Prayuktasu Nakampate Nyaham. So he says all the three matras of the Omkara Dhyanam are still subject to rebirth. But one who meditates, unceasingly combining these without identifying any difference, Pura Aga means Bahya Abhyantara Madhyamasu, one who sees no difference between external, internal, in between, and meditates on the universal form, that person has nothing to worry. So basically he is saying that the same Trimatra Dhyanam, when it is done in one particular way, again these are all very technical terms, he says whatever I have told you three, you are subject to rebirth. Though in reality when you go to Brahma Lokam there is no chance for rebirth, but you still have a long time to meditate there till you Nirguna Brahman. So he's kind of indirectly telling that. But if you meditate combining the three matras without seeing any external, internal or intermediate differences, and if you do the dhyanam for that Magan, there is nothing to worry, which means he will get mukti here itself, Jivan Mukti, he will merge with Nirguna Brahman. Tistro Matra Mrityu Madhyaha Prayukta Anyona Sakta Anavi Prayuktaham Kriyasu Bahya Abhyantara Madhyamasu Samyak Prayuktasu Nakampate Nyaham. For that Jnani there is nothing to worry about. But like I said, this is the general idea, so you can get Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, but exactly technically how you have to do this Omkara Dhyanam, you have to go only to a very good like Paramacharya or Shringeri Acharya, and then only you should get Upadesam from them, and then only you can do it. And like I said, Omkara Dhyanam is most prescribed for sannyasis, but if you are very evolved, you can do, even a Grahastha you can do it. Rigbihi Edam Yajurbihi Antariksham Samabhihi Yat Tat Kavayo Vedayante Tam Omkarena Eva Ayatanena Anveti Vidwan Yat Tat Shantam ajaram, amrutam, abhayam, param, sheti. So Rigbihi etam, Yajurbihi antariksham, Samabhihi yat tat kabayo vedayante. So I have already described how the Rigdevadas bring you back to earth. Yajurbihi takes you to the antariksham and Samabhihi takes you to the Brahmalokam. But if you take complete refuge on this Omkaram, tam Omkara ena eva ayatanena means if you hold it as your biggest support or your biggest, what I would say is path. If you take the Omkara path or the Omkara as the support, then you will also reach with that Vidwan yet tat shantam ajaram amrutam abhayam param cheti. He will reach the state which is completely peaceful. Tat shantam, ajaram means beyond old age, amrutam means beyond death, abhayam means absolutely fearless state. So he will reach that state which is completely peaceful, which is no old age, no death associated, and which is completely fearless state. So the Omkara will not, so if you do the different meditations, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samvedas will take you to the appropriate load, appropriate words, but if you do it the other way, you can reach the final Param state here itself. So he is giving the Nirguna Brahma Upasana also is there. So that is the completion of that. So now I want to finish the last chapter, which will that way give you a completion of this Prashna Upanishad, and then we'll have some time for questions. So the final chapter, 6th chapter, which is the typical example of the Adhyaropapavada theory, which Adi Shankara always talks about. Atahainam Sukesho Bharadvajaha Paprascham Bhagavan Hiranyanabha Kaushalyo Rajaputro Mam Upedhyaitam Prashanam Aprushadam Shodashakalam Bharadvaja Purusham Vetam Tamaham Kumaram Abruvam Naham Imam Veda Yet Yaham Imam Avedisham Kadam Te Na Avakshyamiti Samulova Esha Parishishyati Yo Andrutam Abhivadati Tasmat Narham Andrutam Bhaktum Sadushnim Radam Aruhya Pravabraja Tam Tva Prichami Khwaso Purusha Iti. It's a big, it's actually the question is only one question, but it goes through a small story. So, without going to individual word meanings, I will tell this much, because it is actually a small story which he is putting before he asking the question. Atahainam Sukesho Bharadvajaga Paprascha. So this Sukesha, who is son of the Bharadvaja Rishi, is now asking the question to Pippalada Maharishi. And he is asking Bhagavan, and he tells a story. Hiranyanabha's son Kausalya, he is a prince, he came to see me once. When he came to see me, he asked me about Shodashakalam Bharadvaja Purusham Veta. Shodasha means 16. Shodashakala means 16 kalas. Do you know, there is a sloka by Apadish called Durga Chandra Kalastuti. It goes to the 16 kalas of the moon. The moon is supposed to have 16 kalas. The 15 kalas which we know from Pradhamai to Paurnami, the 15th is, and the 16th is the goddess Ambal itself, who is the non-destructible factor. So the 16th is the Shodashi. Ambal is sometimes called Shodashi. That's another name of Ambal. Some people call it as Shodashi, the 16th Amsam of the moon. So do you know Prashanam Aprushada Shodashakalam Bharadvaja, a son of Bharadvaja, do you know this Shodashakala Purusha, this Purusha who has got 16 parts? Kalam means parts. 16. Do you know this Purusha who has 16 parts? So then this Bharadvaja's son Sukesha is telling, I told him, I don't want to lie to you, I really don't know him, I'm sorry. And then the prince was very upset that I couldn't answer him, but he left very quietly, left my place. So I really want to know what is this Shodashakala Purusha. So do you know, Pippalada Maharishi, that 16, what is the 16 faced or 16 parted Purusha? Can you explain me to that Shodashakala Purusha? What is this? So this, sometimes they call this chapter the Shodashakala Vidya. But there is another Shodashakala Vidya in Chandogya Upanishad also. That is a different way of explaining the 16 parts, but this is another 16 parts here. So then our Pippalada Maharishi is telling to answer. Tasmai sahovacha ihai vantaha sharire somya स पुरुषो यस्मिन् एताः षोडशकलाः प्रभवन्ति इति तस्मै स होवाच इहैव अन्तः शरीरे सौम्य स पुरुषो यस्मिन् एताः षोडशकलाः प्रभवन्ति इति. Somya again means, like I said, my dear, my friend, whatever, it's a good, so he's addressing the person, telling, hey Somya, within this body itself, this Purusha with the Shodashakala parts is there. So you don't need to go anywhere else. In your Shariram itself, this Purusha with the Shodashakala parts is there. That's what he starts the chapter. Then he gives another small sloka in between. Sa iksham chakre kasmin aham utkranto bhavishyami kasmin va pratishthasyamiti. Sa iksham chakre kasmin aham utkranto bhavishyami kasmin va pratishthasyamiti. So the Atma is thinking, it seems. The Atma is thinking, what should I create? Which means I should create something. And when that creation leaves the body, I will leave the body. And when that creation stays in the body, I will stay in the body. So the Atma is actually a supreme factor. But it is thinking like that, it seems. So that is how it creates prana, it seems. And it creates prana. So prana is secondary to, right second to Atma, the life force. We call prana. That's why you can remember I told even in Jivan Mukti the mind merges, but the prana is the last to merge. So the prana, and even in deep sleep the prana is circulating. Even in deep coma the prana is circulating. If the prana is gone, you are gone. So the Atma itself has decided, if the prana stays in the body, I will stay in the body. If the prana leaves the body, I will leave the body. So that is what it seems the Atma decided. Sa pranam asrujata. So that's how we created pranam. Sa pranam asrujata. Prana shraddam kam vayur jyodir apa prithvi indriyam manaham annam annat viryam tapo mantraha karma lokaha lokeshu cha namacham. So he gives the 16 parts right here. So pranam sapranam astrujata prana shraddam kam vayur jyodir apa prithvi indriyam manaham annam annat viryam tapo mantraha karma lokaha lokeshu cha namaham. So the 16 are pranam. From pranam comes shraddha. Then comes kam. Kam here means it's other name for akasha. Akash tattvam. Akasha. Vayu. Jyotir is agni. Apaha is water. Prithvi is earth. Indriyam is all the indriyas. And manaha is the manat tattvam. Annam. Annam is the food. Viryam is the vitality. Tapo is the tapas. Mantra is all the mantras. Karma loka means all these lokas, and in the lokas, nama, everything with nama. There is a cow, there is a bull, there is a horse, there is a human, there is an elephant, there is an insect, there is a banyan tree, there is a neem tree. So everything with all these names God created. So he is telling, first the Atma created pranam. From the prana comes shraddam. Shraddam here is other name for the intellect. So basically mahat tattvam comes there. So then comes all the Panchabhutas, then the Indriya comes, the Mana comes, then the food was created, from the food vitality was created, and then all the tapas, all the austerities, the different mantras were created, the entire lokas were created, and inside the lokas, everything with the name was created. So this is how the Atma and the 16 tattvas comes about. So the same 16 is also present even in it is present in the cosmic universe, it is also present in your own body, all these 16 tattvas are there. Because even in your own body, they will tell all the different chakras, represent the different lokas in your body, the Muladhara chakra, everything. So even the whole universe is inside your body also. So he is telling this is the 16 tattvas, and this is the, this is one way of describing creation. The Upanishads give you different ways of creation. This is one way Pippalada Maharishi gives the creation. And then he says, because this book is not dealing with the creation, it's just only touching. He is just explaining what is the Shodashakala Purusha. So then he says, Sa edema nadhyaha shantamanaha samudrayanaha samudram prapyastam gachanti vidyate tasam nama rupe samudra iddevam prochyate evam evasya paridrashtara imaha shodashakalaha purushayanaha purusham prapyastam gacchanti vidyate tasam nama rupe purusha idyevam prochyate sayesho akalo amrudo bhavati tatesha slokah. This is the most important sloka in the entire Prashnopanishad. Sayade manadhyah shantamanaha samudrayanaha samudram prapyastam gacchanti vidyate tasam nama rupe samudra idyevam prochyate evam evasya paridrashtra imaham shodashakalaha purushayanaham purusham prapyastam gacchanti vidyate tasam nama rupe purusha idyevam prochyate sa yesho akalo amrudo bhavati tatesha slokah. So the last line is easy to understand. Akalo amrudo bhavati means partless. Kala means part, akala means no parts. Amrudo means, mritam means death, amrudam means no death. So he will reach the state where there is no parts and no death. That is the final thing. And he is giving an example. This is Mahaperiva will quote this example in several of his lectures. Nadya Shantamanaha Samudrayanaha. How the rivers, when the rivers, there are multiple rivers. There are rivers merging into Bay of Bengal, rivers merging into Atlantic Ocean. All these different rivers, there will be 10 rivers, 20 rivers. They are all flowing through different courses, but they finally merge in the ocean. When they merge in the ocean, you cannot distinguish which is from Ganga river, which is from Yamuna river, which is from Saraswati river. You cannot distinguish. Everything becomes one. So like the rivers are flowing different parts, they finally go to the ocean, and once they go to the ocean, you cannot differentiate which river from which. Everything becomes the ocean. Same Chodashakalaha Purushayanaha Purusham Prapyastam. All these different 16 parts will merge only in that one Purusha, and once they merge, there is no difference. Vidyate tasam nama rupe Purusha. Everything, there's now all these namam rupam, everything will merge in the Purusham, and only the Purusham will be left. That final Purusha will be left, and once who knows this truth, which is partless, deathless, will also attain to that state. So basically saying, though this Purusha has 16 parts, it is like the different rivers. The 16 parts will finally only merge with the ocean, and only the ocean will be left. Same way, all the 16 parts will merge only into the Supreme Purusha, and thus only the Purusha will be who is partless and who is deathless will be left, and that is the final state. So basically, that is how the Adi Shankara's theory is. Even when you are living, you should know to negate this entire world, because all these are only a creation or projection, and these are all having no ultimate reality, and these are only the 16 parts or whatever parts, they are projections of the Brahman, and only the Brahman is the real truth. That's why the Brahman, Satya, Jagan, Mithya, these are all only Nama Rupams. They are only names and forms, they don't have any ultimate reality. They are all but the projections of the Brahman, and they will finally merge in Brahman. So only the Brahman is the ultimate state which is left behind. Ara iva radanabau kala yasmin pratishtitaham tam vedyam purusham veda yada mavo mrityu parivyata iti. So now he is advising the students, Pippalada Maharishi. Ara iva radanabau kala yasmin pratishtitaham tam vedyam purusham veda yata mavo mrityu parivyata iti. So he says, he is giving the example of the axle in the wheel. If you look at the wheel, there is the one central axle, and where all the spokes come and join, and that serves as the support for the entire wheel. So he says all these different parts are like different spokes. They finally merge only in the central axle part, and the same way everything merges only in the Purusha is the central support for all these things. That is the one which is holding. Vasudevana Viryani will say in Vishnu Sahasranamam, only by the glory of Vasudeva everything is kept in place, everything is held. So he said, only by the great Purusha all these different kalas are kept in place, or they're held together. Please try to tam vedyam Purusha Veda. Please try to know about this Purusha before Mrityu comes, and that's why you can also become immortal. So he's telling, don't waste your life. Try to learn about this Purusha before the Mrityu comes to you, and that way you can overcome the death also. Because once you know Brahman, you become Amritam, and तान् होवाच एतावत् एहम् एतत् परं ब्रह्म वेद नादः परमस्ति इति. So that is the final sloka is telling. तान् होवाच एतावत् एवाहम् एतत् परं ब्रह्म वेदं नादः परम asti iti. I have told you all I know about the Param Brahman. That is all I know. So he is telling, I have exhausted my knowledge with you. This is my final thing I can tell. I have nothing more to tell you guys. That is what he says. Then the last sloka is the te tam archayantastvam hina pitaha yo asmakam avidyayaha param bharam tarayasiti nama paramarishibhyo nama paramarishibhyaham. So all the 6 students are telling te tam archayantastvam hinah pita yo asmakam avidyayaha param bharam tarayasiti. You are like our father. You have removed our avidya. Asmakam avidyayaha param. You have crossed this, removed this avidya from us, and you have helped us cross this ocean of life. Nama parama rishibhyo nama parama rishibhyam. We salute all the rishis, all the great rishis who have given this truth, and that is what he says. Om Badram Karnevi Shunyama Devaha Badram Pashem Akshubarjatraha Sterange Tustuvagunastunubihi Vishema Devedi Medayuhu Swastina Indro Rudrashavaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Star Sharistinemihi Swastina Brahaspati Dadatu. Om Shanti 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 Saptem Chakravarti Tanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam Shri Akantaya Kalyana Nidhe Nidhe Etinam Shri Venkata Nivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam.